Hello! Today we're going to be making my ultimate lentil and walnut ragu. It's called ultimate because over the years I have tried many vegetarian, lentil, nut, etc. ragus, and I have tweaked and perfected, and this for me is the best of the best. I absolutely love this recipe. We make this all the time in our house. It's delicious, it's nutritious, it's got over 10 different plant sources in it, so that's like a third of your week done just with one bowl of this. It's great for meal prep as well. You can double, quadruple this recipe and it'll keep really well in the freezer as well. It makes you feel good and it tastes great. So we're going to be making that today. This recipe does use a food processor to make things nice and easy. It is possible to make this without a food processor if you don't have one. If you have a bullet blender or jar blender, I would recommend you chop your onion, celery, garlic and carrot by hand. So you'll just need to pause this when we use the food processor, just to catch up, and chop those very finely by hand. And then you can use your bullet or your jar blender when we get to the lentil and walnut part, because we're going to make a paste out of those. If you don't even have a blender, then you can still make it, but when we get to the lentil and walnut part, you're just going to have to roughly chop them. So again, press pause on this and roughly chop those. It might be a bit messy, but it is doable. You will end up with a slightly chunkier ragu, so it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. You might want to then cook it down a little bit further just to soften it a bit more. You might quite like a chunky ragu. It's up to you. It is possible, however, if you have a food processor, I'm going to be using this Ninja one today. It does make life a hell of a lot easier and quicker, so we're going to be using this. In terms of other equipment, something to measure out your walnuts, and either a pot or a mug like that for soaking them. We will need a sharp knife and a chopping board for one or two things, nothing major. A bin bowl for our scraps, a sieve just to drain our lentils. You'll want to fill the kettle up now and pop that on because we're going to need that first. And you're going to need one pot for your ragu, doesn't need to be this big, but a fairly big one, and one pot for your pasta with a lid ideally. So if you haven't done so already, I recommend you pause this and get all of the equipment out that you're going to need, as well as all of your ingredients. So check the ingredients list and have everything ready to go. Makes life a hell of a lot easier. So let's get started. My kettle's just boiled, so we're going to start by measuring out the walnuts and getting them on the stove. We're doing this because it just makes cooking it down later a lot quicker. I have made it without soaking them before, and it's fine. So we're going 100 grams here. But I do personally prefer, oh, that's almost exact. Oh, it is exact. How fantastic. I do find it's a nicer sort of softer texture when you soak them. So we're just going to pop those in a mug, and I'm going to fill that with boiling water. And then we're just going to set this aside until we need it. There's no sort of minimum or maximum time here. Just pop that over there. Fabulous. And while we're on to this part as well, we can also open up your lentils. We don't need them yet, but they're going to be with the walnuts later, so we may as well. So I'm just going to drain these off. You can give them a little rinse, it's not crucial. And I'll just leave them draining over the sink whilst we get on with everything else. So, onto our food processor part, we're going to add an onion. This onion is probably the smallest I would use for this. If it was any smaller, I might be tempted to use two. If you've got a big one, use the whole one. Should be fine for today. So just peel off the outer layers And then because it's going in a food processor, all I'm going to do is just take off the real rooty part. It's actually not a fantastic onion. Can we just get rid of that brown? That's a little bit brown. Yeah. Take off the root. Yeah. Just about okay. There's only these last layers, but we're not going to waste it. Get rid of those. So that's going in. Meanwhile, your pan that we're going to cook this in, this one, I'm just going to preheat that. Nothing in it, just dry. But I'm just going to put it on a medium heat and get that nice and warm. Just saves you time later. I've said 2 celery stalks. These are celery sticks, so they're a bit shorter. So I've got 3 here. Just pop that in there. And again, I've said 1 large carrot. This is a bit of a rubbish carrot, so I've gone 1.5. Like so. And then I think I've said 4 garlic cloves. These are tiny, and in my opinion, there's not such thing as too much garlic. So I'm just going to put all of these in. I think I've got about 6 here. If you've only got 4, that's cool. If you're not a big garlic fan, or if you're sensitive to it, I know some people do find themselves sensitive to garlic, then feel free to put less. But I am a garlic fiend, so I'm always looking for opportunities to put more garlic in things. Just chopping up the ends. With garlic, it can be really fiddly like this to peel, and then your hands get all sticky. So what I do, put your knife flat on top like that. Be careful it's not pointing upwards. Point down a little bit if anything, and use the palm of your hand to give it a little smack like that. And what happens is then that comes off super easily. No trick, especially if you've got lots of little cloves like this. It's a bit of a pain to peel. And peeling tiny cloves of garlic is probably one of my least favourite kitchen jobs. But giving it a little smack like that does really help. Straight in. Like that. Okay, can pop the lid on, and I'm just going to blitz this in the food processor until we get to sort of what looks like a very fine dice. We're not looking for a paste here, just very fine dice. So we'll see how long that takes. Food processors do make your life a lot easier for things like this. Just going to tidy up a little bit here. Get rid of my garlic. It's a great idea whenever you're starting cooking something like this. Start with your dishwasher empty if you can, and then as you go along, you can pop things in the dishwasher, and then when you finish, it's lovely and tidy. Okay, so this is warm now, so I'm going to add in some olive oil. A few tablespoons. You want enough so that your sofrito can saute and so it doesn't burn. So I'm going to use a spoon. Take this out. And that's going to go in. You can see that's just a very fine dice. It's not made any kind of paste or anything. Don't worry if there's some chunky bits in there, it's absolutely fine. And this is going to form the base of our ragu. Don't put this away yet, because we're going to use that again. And then into this, we're going to add a really good pinch of salt, like that. And we're going to add our dried herbs at this point as well. going to be lovely and herby. We're going to use a whole tablespoon of oregano, and a whole tablespoon of thyme. I'm using dried here because actually it works quite well in things like this, and cooked salmon is quite earthy. If you wanted to use fresh, you could absolutely use fresh as well if you've got it. I like to put things away as I've used them, creature of habit. So we're actually going to cook this down. We're going to prepare everything else. We're going to cook this down, ideally for about 15 minutes, because we really want to bring out the flavour of the onion and caramelise those edges. We're definitely not looking for too much colour here. We're just looking to sweat it down and start to get the sweetness out of the onion, basically. That's what you're looking for. So yeah, ideally about 15 minutes. Sometimes I do it for longer, but I think for the sake of this, 15 minutes. If it's looking a bit dry, feel free to add a bit more olive oil. You can be quite generous with the olive oil in this dish, because if you think about it, we're not using any meat in this ragu. It's a vegetarian. Actually, it's vegan, I think. Yeah, vegan. So you haven't got any fat coming from any animal products in here, unless you have the fat in this dish is coming from the olive oil. So don't be scared of it. Use some olive oil, and that's really going to help caramelise and sweat down that. And we're going to have that on a sort of medium heat. We don't want it so high that it burns, but also we want to give it a little bit of juice. So we can start preparing the rest. Back in your food processor, we're going to add half of these lentils, like that. You can add them all if you want, but I think it's nice to keep a little bit of texture. And then just going to pour the other half out here so I can use my sieve. We're going to drain your walnuts. They're going to go in there, like that. And I'm just going to add a little splash of water in here as well, because we kind of want to create a bit of a paste. So don't have to be too specific with that. Keep an eye on your veg whilst we're doing this. I mean, it should already smell delicious from all those nice herbs. So lid on, and we're going to go coarse paste here. I'm thinking sort of a coarse pesto sort of texture, or a chunky hummus. That's what we're going for. So there we go. So, let me show you this. Keep an eye on this. Looking good. Might turn it down just a touch. I'll get it steamy in here. I would normally have my extract fan on for this, but it's very noisy, so try with that. So this is the texture. Can you see that? Bit sloppy. Doesn't really look like match at the moment. But that's going to add a really nice flavour and texture and fibre into our ragu. What we're going to do now, this needs to cook for about another 10 minutes or so before we can carry on. Everything else we're pretty much ready to go with. So that's the extent of the prep. As you can see, if you've got a food processor, it's very, very straightforward. So pause this, and once you've given your ragu another sort of 10 minutes or so, we'll come back and we can move on to the next step. Okay, we're ready to move on to the next part. As you can see here, the sofrito that we've made here is nicely cooked down. It's starting to caramelise. It's soft, so that's what we're looking for. We're going to add the red wine. So, little tip, I love to use these little bottles when I'm cooking because I don't want to open a full bottle of nice red wine, especially if I'm making this on a Monday night and I don't want to be drinking, I don't want it open. These are fantastic. We're going to use about 100 mils, so that's just over half of, no sorry, just under half, bad maths, of this bottle. So we're going to turn the heat up. There we go. So if you're not drinking, if you don't drink alcohol, you can still cook with wine, because all of the alcohol cooks off during the cooking period. It's perfectly safe for children, for anybody that can't drink alcohol. If it's the ABV percentage that they're concerned about, obviously if there's other reasons, for example, you can't eat grapes or something like that, then obviously don't, but otherwise it's perfectly fine. And little bottles like that can also really help, because then you don't have leftover alcohol hanging around in the house. So we're just going to cook that down just for a couple of minutes. If your pan is much smaller, this might take an extra couple of minutes. Because I've got quite a big surface area here and it's nice and hot, this is going to cook off in just 2 minutes, I think. So you're just waiting for it to have mostly evaporated, but most importantly, when you smell it, it shouldn't smell like alcohol anymore. You should smell wine, but it shouldn't smell like that strong, boozy smell. We want that to evaporate. It smells delicious. And the next thing that we're going to add in is, well, basically everything else. So we're going to add our paste here. We can turn this down a little bit now. We don't need it quite so hot once your wine's cooked off. If it's not, if it needs a few extra minutes, feel free to just pop us on pause for a second and come back when you're ready to add your paste. We're going to go ahead. So, lentil and walnut paste goes in. Every last drop. Stir that in. Got to trust the process here. It's going to look a little strange at this point. We're going to add our lentils. This gives us a little bit more texture. Again, going to put this straight in the dishwasher. Keep things nice and tidy whilst we're cooking. Then we're going to add in, so you can either use chopped tomatoes, or I've got a tin of passata that's open and I've got basically exactly 400 grams I think left in this, so I'm going to use this. And you're going to want a little bit of liquid in there as well, so just fill, if you've got a tin, just fill your tin of tomatoes up about halfway with water. I'm going to do the same with this and then add that in as well. Give it a little shake. So give that a really good stir and you'll start to see this come together. Gonna get all that paste mixed in. And it sort of takes on a kind of very slow cooked mince texture, which I quite like, with a bit of chunkiness from some of the nuts and from the whole lentils. So there's a bit of contrast there, but it sticks really well onto the pasta. There we go. Bring that to a simmer. Might want to turn the heat up a little bit again now because we've added lots of cold elements, so the temperature will have dropped. Just want to bring it back to a simmer. Then we're just going to add in basically our flavour boosters. So these things are going to be what takes it from quite nice to delicious. They also really help, these four as a combo actually, they really help in any vegetarian cooking. So we're going to add a tablespoon of tomato paste. So it adds tomatoey flavour, but it also adds that kind of umami flavour as well, which we're going to double down on. It's sort of a heaped tablespoon there, with some soy sauce as well, so a tablespoon of each. like so. And then we're going to add a teaspoon each of balsamic vinegar, and Marmite. And these things just absolutely transform it into something delicious. Marmite just adds that really nice kind of umami, salty richness. But obviously we're lacking a bit because we haven't got any meat in there, but oh man, the fingers. Put that on the spoon. Okay, just gonna wash my hands and we can give that a good stir. So we're going to cook this down now. It's up to you how long you want to cook it for. I would say the longer you cook it for, the better it tastes. However, we don't have any meat or anything like that in there, so you could technically eat it now if you wanted to. I'm going to leave this for about 20 minutes today because that's the time that I have. And in the meantime, I'm going to boil the kettle and we're going to get a pan of boiling water on for the pasta. Remember to salt your water generously. You want it to taste salty like the Mediterranean Sea. So plenty of salt in there. Boil the pasta until it's al dente, and then we'll come back here when we're ready to combine the pasta with the sauce. So you can pause this now, you can have a little tidy up, and I'll see you back here shortly. Is nearly cooked. So I'm using tagliatelle pasta. The packet says 9 to 11 minutes. So for al dente, you want it 9 minutes or even 8-ish. Because what we're going to do is I'm going to turn this off. And I want to add my pasta to the sauce along with some of the pasta cooking water. However, I'm only cooking for 2 today. So first off, I'm going to siphon off half of my ragu. You can give it a little taste at this point as well. Should be looking delicious. See if it needs anything. No, it's great. A little under-seasoned at this point, but that's perfect because our pasta water is nice and seasoned. So I'm going to take about half of this. I've got delicious leftovers now. So about half. Maybe a little bit more. It's great. I'm going to put this in the freezer. I love these containers because you can actually write on the lids lentil and walnut ragu. No need for a sticker or anything like that. I'm going to let that cool a little bit before we put the lid on properly. And it comes off easily with a cloth, so we can do that. So now what I'm going to do, the pasta, get rid of that for a second. I'm going to use some tongs. And I'm actually going to put this back on a very low heat. Okay. And I'm going to add my pasta straight into here. And we're just going to finish cooking it in the sauce. So that really helps to kind of bind the sauce to the pasta. And we're going to add a little splash of pasta cooking water as well, and that's going to help to just finally season the ragu. Just finish cooking that in there. It makes a huge difference doing it this way around. Look at that. Delicious. I've got a few extra little bits in here, so I'm just going to sieve that. Obviously you can use any pasta you like with this, I just like it with tellicle. It's going to go straight in the dishwasher. And then we're just going to give it another 30 seconds, just so that kind of thickens up and gets all over the pasta like that. And at this point, you can give it another quick little taste. Turn the heat off. It's going to carry on cooking in the residual heat anyway. Get a bit of pasta if you can. Check the pasta's good. Check the sauce is good. Fab. Ready to plate up. I'm just going to plate out one portion now, because it's just me here today. These tongs. Oh yeah. So you can really see the difference there. When you mix the sauce, you use the pasta water, how nice it coats the pasta. Makes a massive difference. A little bit more there. There we go. And that will be for my husband later. And we're going to add some parmesan, of course. Delicious. Oh, a chunk of parmesan. There we go, my ultimate lentil and walnut ragu. I hope you love it.